Hello, listening people.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Bartek. How are you doing?
Good, Mr. Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Mr. Ryan, I had a teacher named Mr. Ryan. I just conflated the two of you.
Who was better?
Who was better?
Well, he's no longer in your life, is he?
No, I'm Facebook friends with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he sends me birthday wishes every year.
Oh, how many teachers, former teachers of yours, are you friends with on Facebook? I'm actually friends with quite a few of mine. Weirdly,
I think just him and Liam, maybe.
Well, Liam's different. He was a university teacher as well.
Well, you said teacher, so
Yeah,
but
I
other
guess
than
so.
that, yeah, no one else. I don't think.
I always think it's different when it was university because we didn't have to call them Mr. or Miss or Mrs. something or other. Like, to
Yeah.
me, it's like they were a lecturer.
I remember on my first day, I called Liam sir, and he was like, "Don't do that."
Don't do that, as Liam would say. You can't afford to be choosy. So, Bartek, we are here today on Spit and Polish to present our show, Pictures Powwow, where we talk about a movie that has come recommended. And who recommends the movies? Is it your mum? Does she recommend the movies? Is this a mum's recommendation podcast?
She has recommended one, and we still haven't gotten around to it for complicated reasons.
Recommend another.
That's a good point, actually. She should. But yeah, it can be pretty much anyone. But the everyone category is only every 3 weeks. We have a 3-week cycle where in the first week it's only my picks. Only I get to choose. Yes. Then the second week it's only you, which is the furthest from mine because I have to wait a few more weeks.
Boo.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but it happens. It happens, and it's going to happen every
Boo.
next week as well. Next episode. And then the third week is the everyone else, the listening people, the people that we know, the people who say, hey, you should do this film. And, we put that on a list and we get around to them eventually. We did that last episode.
And so by those rules and logic and the context clues and everything you've said, you've given us all the clues.
Mm-hmm.
I can work out that the hero recommended the movie for today, and that was you, Bartek. You're the hero, and I'm the villain.
This is a week where people are clapping.
This is a week where people are clapping. I was thinking about how later this year we're going to be hitting our 10-year anniversary of our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about how, due to crazy circumstances of time and life, that you have been on the show the most. I have missed episodes of this podcast.
Yeah, you missed.
And that will never, you will never miss episodes of this podcast. Well, you've missed half an episode because you had to leave halfway through an episode.
Heavyweights the last 15 minutes because we were late on a Sunday and the last bus was about to leave.
That was so funny.
Yeah.
That was so funny. But I was just thinking about that because you were going through your cycles of stuff, and I'm like, I'll never catch up. I don't think I'll ever be able to catch up unless we purposely plan for you to miss episodes for the sake of me catching up, and then I don't think we're ever going to do that. But
it's only 3 episodes.
How would we do it with Pictures Powwow? Imagine if you missed the episode that you recommended a movie for. You're like, okay, I recommended The Big Boss, and it's like, and Bartek couldn't make it this week.
Funny you should mention that film
him.
of all films, but we'll get around to that. Yeah, I guess it wouldn't be 3 in a row like with you. It'd be like, oh, I'm here for my ones, but then I miss a Ryan or listening people, and then since you're the villain, another Ryan.
Yeah, me, always me. But Bartek, what film did you give us this time on the podcast?
So this is what I was saying before about funny you should mention that, because I actually picked The Big Boss, the 1971 Hong Kong martial arts film, The Big Boss.
Which was the starting point for Bruce Lee, correct? One of the starting points for the breakouts?
For his leading roles.
Yeah, well, yes. Okay, let me put it this way. With what most people associate Bruce Lee for, which is leading kick-ass bad boy, martial artist, not him as Kato.
Yeah. This was like him leaving that role to do his own thing.
Ah, man. So everyone, if you've not seen The Big Boss or whatever variant of a title it has, depending where you're from, please
it could be
make
called
sure...
It could be called Fists of Fury, not to be confused with his second leading role, which was Fists of Fury.
Why did that happen? Do you do you know?
I think it was just a coincidence, and I think it's most of the stuff I've learned about martial arts film is from the Cinemassacre YouTube channel, because James
Mm.
Rolfe is a huge martial arts fan, and he had a video forever ago talking about localized titles, and there's like 3 or 4 examples of them coming up with a new title and then screwing themselves with a later film coming
Mm.
out with that title. And I think there's even a case where they renamed like an earlier film this title too, and then the
Mm-hmm.
first one comes out, so it's like the sequel came out first according to the titles.
Yep.
It's very screwy.
That happens with some Italian films, like Zombie 2 is a whole separate thing,
Mm.
and spaghetti westerns as well. I mean, the whole trickery of like American trailers making you think that the man with no name is a whole thing with the dollars and the dollars trilogy and all of that, and it's like no, that stuff doesn't really exist in the way that you may think it does when you actually sit down and watch those movies. And same with what we're saying here, where it's like this movie was called Fist of Fury because of translation and localization and all this, but then there's another one that people actually know, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Like
And
when you
I
said
think
the big boss, I will say I had not heard of this one. The other ones of Bruce's films, I know the names of. Like
yeah, the more iconic.
they're more iconic, they're more well known. The even just the visuals of them, the posters or what you see in the film have translated across over the years. The Big Boss I had not seen before. This is my first time seeing it, so I didn't know what to expect. I knew obviously there'll be martial arts and fighting and killing and brutalizing. I wasn't expecting it to be as violent as it was, which was a nice change of pace. I was thinking of Story of Ricky at many times during this. Not as bloody, but that kind of pop off at the end is very
Yeah,
good.
apparently this is one of his more bloody films.
Yep, I can definitely see that. And the story is it has to be. The story's simple.
Mm.
Our boy Bruce Lee gets a job at an ice factory that's actually not truly on the up and up. They're doing some crime stuff, and people get hurt along the way. People are lied to, and Bruce Lee he has an oath that he's trying to uphold, but then how long will that oath of no violence stand?
Bruce Lee is not the hero, it's his cousin Hsu. He's the hero. He likes beating up bullies, he likes justice, he's the one that helps people out.
Yeah.
And Bruce Lee's just off on the side there, just watching him do it.
Yeah, he's the main character, but he's the lead man, but he's also very much secondary in this film. It's a weirdly structured movie.
Him and his jade talisman that has a music box leitmotif.
Oh, it has like a children's lullaby motif. It's very funny. If
this is the only I don't know what episode it was, but that thing with the talisman and the music box motif is the only thing I've mentioned about this film in the past.
this I'll obviously pass it over to you, but I just will say big tiger crane fist, whatever. What
Tiger and crane fist.
Tiger and crane fist energy from this movie. Just made me think of that movie a lot.
I thought about it a fair bit too.
So Bartek, you recommended The Big Boss. So tell us your history and why you recommended it.
Yeah, so you brought up before that we watched Fists of Fury in university. Was that on this, or was that just before we started recording?
Before we started recording, I wanted to know what one we watched at university, because that was my first time seeing a Bruce Lee movie as well.
Yes, so just before we started recording, Ryan asked me that, and I answered Fists of Fury, and it's the same for me. That was the first time I saw a Bruce Lee film as well. But I'd always had some interest in martial arts, mainly from that Cinemassacre channel where they're a huge martial arts fan, and it seemed like a really fun genre. But yeah, for all those years, I'd only seen the one Bruce Lee film, and he's like, one of the big names. Even though when you actually look into it, like, he was only the starring role in a couple of films, like 5 or 6. But he was iconic enough to spawn, like, the Bruce-sploitation genre. So I wanted to check out some actual, like, Bruce Lee-led films. And so a couple of years ago, sometime this decade, I was browsing on SBS On Demand, a channel that we have here in Australia that has an online presence. And they had almost every Bruce Lee film, I think. And so I thought, oh, well, I'll check out the first one, The Big Boss. I've heard of that one before, but I don't know much about it. I like the title. It makes me think of Metal Gear Solid. Um, so yeah, I checked that one out and I had a good time with it. It was different from what I was expecting. But I always, held this fondness for it and thought, okay, yeah, and I can do this on the podcast at some point. And, this year we're doing older films.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, why not do an older sort of martial arts film? Not the oldest, obviously, but 1971, start of the Bruce Lee.
Oh, Bruce. They call me Bruce. That's a movie we also did on the pod.
Yeah, does that count as a Bruce-ploitation film?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It doesn't exist without Bruce Lee, so yes. So, The Big Boss. It's a strange film. What I will say is that when we lay out the Bruce Lee journey that I have gone on, I saw Fist of Fury first, then The Way of the Dragon? No, Enter the Dragon. Which one was it that we did on the pod?
The podcast Enter
the Dragon, and then this. So I've ping-ponged and bounced around his timeline of when these movies came out. And I wanted to say that first because the filmmaking for me in the journey has kind of regressed because this one is very rough because of the filmmaking. The action and the violence, and even Bruce Lee, when he gets to do all the physical stuff, is great. It is wonderful, but it's contained in a movie that is not up to par when it comes to the actual direction, filmmaking, and the storytelling. Like, the actual plot of this is so minute. There are no characters in this film for me. They are just people that exist, and the focus on who is the lead character is so scattershot. That's what I would say. This film is very much like a draft of what we would go on to see succeed very well with Bruce Lee movies, like with Fist of Fury, that's what I'm saying. Like when I think of how I've gone watching his movies, I've not been a big lover of them. They're not my thing, but they have their time and place. And this one, it's just I kind of bounced back and forth of if I liked it or if I didn't. And I think a part of it is I like it because I appreciate where it exists in the timeline of his stardom, his career. Like, he had already existed doing supporting roles and doing TV work and trying to branch over here, trying to branch over there. And then what comes after all of this and who he is in the grand scheme of the entertainment industry. I mean, but then you watch The Big Boss, the movie, and lots of the movie is just nothing happening. Lots of the movie are these secondary characters or these other characters who don't have any presence because they're not Bruce Lee or they're not the evil manager. So you don't really care. Like, there's just people, they die, and Bruce Lee's like, no, they're dead. And I just sit there going, okay, I didn't really care about them.
You can really see the skeleton of the martial arts film with this film. It's very much one where you think about the tropes of a martial arts film and it's like, death will come a little bit cheap. And, something has to motivate the final violence, which in this case is revenge for, his family being murdered. So in that sense, like, you can feel sad about these characters' deaths on a superficial level, but for the thing that you've come to the film for, it's like, okay, there's the motivation. Now let's see the payoff, which is the martial arts.
Yes, and it's a movie where you get little tastes of what you want, but you have to wait till the end to get what you actually want, which is Bruce Lee kicking ass. Bruce Lee kicking someone so hard that they make the Chevy Chase body cartoon outline in a wall at the end of Nothing But Trouble.
That's the exact reference I was thinking when I saw that. And the trivia point about how you really fought hard against that, and the director's like, nope.
And you know what? The director was right, because it's the thing I will forever remember the movie for, like that. But even, now again, I'm not a Bruce Lee expert. I've only seen his films on the occasion, and they've been for the podcast or for study. I have not watched them just for the sake of pure entertainment and enjoyment factor, which is what these movies are very much made for. But I want to say, although this movie did not work for me, I liked how it was drawing like and building up the foundation of what would eventually come. Like even little things like color symbolism of his outfits will be a thing in some of the other movies. I remember that was a big thing in Fist of Fury. Like he would wear white or red, depending like the tone of what the action scene was going to be, and like the symbolism of like the color of death and all of that kind of stuff. And that is in this movie. Like I saw that, and then I read the trivia fact where that was a thing. Like he would wear this color when it was more playful fight or a non-kill fight, and then he would wear this when it was time for the kills. And like that's some level of thought there, but we would see that blossom into something grander and more beautiful and more like again something that lingers with you in films to come.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually had a pretty similar experience to you where I still liked the film, but I was appreciating it more in its historical context. Like, yeah, this is the start of what would come later. And even after this, I keep bringing up Cinemassacre. They actually released a video, I think like literally 2 weeks ago as of this recording, which was like a 25-minute video called like Why I Love Martial Arts Films. And I watched that after I finished watching this one. And it was really funny seeing how a lot of the things that they talked about in that video didn't fully apply to the Big Boss, where it was talking about like, you know, the crazy big stunts, focusing a lot on like Jackie Chan stuff.
Of course.
And talking about how like, oh, and the best ones are the period piece ones where it's about like a student and a master, and like how, you know, Star Wars has copied on. Like, well, that's not the Big Boss, unfortunately.
No. And one of the reasons too that I wanted to look at some older films, whether they be ones from the silent age or the beginning of the talkies or black and white, or even here where it's like, yeah, this is the early 70s. Like, what do you define as the older era of movies as we get further and further and further along? I mean, that was like 50 years, you know, like we're getting to this point. But, you know, this particular genre is still finding its footing, and like with the actor that many people associate as the face of said genre, it's still finding its footing. So like that's something too that I like about revisiting some of these movies, is seeing them figure out or come up with some of the notions that we would see be tent poles for the said genre as we go along. Like when we did M, it was kind of cool to see like how the police procedural aspects of that movie were kind of still figuring out how they do these things in comparison to what we would see 5 years later or something, you know? And so it's like kind of neat. And that's what I think is something to ask as well. Do you find, you know, I just heard you say it, but like, is it good enough to like say, I like a movie, not so much for the contents within it, but for more the context of its existence or its historical placement? Because some people don't. Some people like, no, that's not good enough. And I can see that too. I've had that with some movies as well. It's like, yeah, it's one thing to appreciate it for this highfalutin reason, but did I actually enjoy the movie?
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was. It was one of the first episodes we did this year. I talked about the YMS quote that I really liked, where Your Movie Sucks said that, you know, when watching an older film, does it feel like homework? Like, if it feels like homework, then yeah, you are watching it for the context. If it doesn't feel like homework, then you're actually watching it for the enjoyment. And I had both for this one. I did enjoy it for what it was, and also for the, you know, historical context. Like, I didn't read all the trivia, but the first time I watched it, I did. And I remembered all the stories there about how filmmaking was an absolute nightmare. Like, the place was not optimal. The weather was crap. It was raining all the time. Bruce Lee was sick in like 4 different ways throughout the whole production. And watching it again, keeping all of that in mind from when I read it forever ago, it was interesting to see how none of that felt like it impeded the film that much. Like, it still felt like a coherent story that had the you know, martial arts structure and everything played out the way it should have.
Now, when it comes to the film itself, one of the big hurdles for me is we, the audience, know more than the characters do.
Yes.
And that can have its place. But in a movie where you want him to find out so that way he can punch them real good, it is awfully annoying to have to watch our main character, who is barely in the first like half hour of the film, as like a proper
Yeah,
presence.
he's literally there, but that's about all you can say.
It's kind of annoying to watch him for 90 minutes be clueless and then eventually figure out the obvious thing when the obvious thing happens, and then fight for 10 minutes and then the movie's over. It's like, that bothers me. It does bother me because it can't skate on by of like, well, the characters are so interesting that I can wait for the steak to be served. Like, I'm eating the vegetables, but they're really good vegetables. I'm waiting for the steak. All I kept thinking of, like, okay, are they going to serve me the steak? Yes. And it was very bloody, and I appreciated that. But I think that was my big hurdle of, we know more than the characters do, so there's not even a level of intrigue to what is a very obvious plot of like, clear bad guys are doing clear bad guy things, and our main character is not noticing it until it impacts him, and then he says, all right, no more.
Yeah, pretty much the only mystery that there is like, oh, what did they do with the bodies of the people they killed? And then when you get the answer, it's like, okay, that's the answer.
Yeah, it's not a stunning answer. It doesn't redefine anything you've seen in the movie before. It doesn't make you go, oh, that's what that meant? Oh, it's not.
Yeah, with martial arts films, I can be a lot more forgiving of like the archetypal stuff. But for this film, like between all of the, the violent scenes, the actual martial arts things that you're looking for, it's really only going by with those archetypal things. Like, here's the friendly family, here's the girl, the innocent girl who felt like the same character from Tiger and Crane Fist, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the villains, they're being villainous. It felt like those moments wanted to be, storytelling worthy of what they are trying to be on their own, but it just is furthering along the grander narrative of like, this is what he's going to want revenge against eventually.
And I want more action in the martial arts movie. It's as simple as that. But I do question myself of like, am I just not appreciating the kind of slow, meditative quality of the movie? Before we started recording as well, we were just talking about George Miller, because we are just coming off of talking about George Miller's movies and Lorenzo's Oil and so on, and thinking about like the first Mad Max movie, where there are people who don't like the first Mad Max movie because it doesn't give you all of the eccentric characters and the big action-packed car chases and the post-apocalyptic wasteland. But like, I like that movie because of its slow meditative qualities that help aid when those things do come up. And I was wondering, am I not just getting into that thought and feel when watching The Big Boss? Because there is a kind of a trance-like quality to the movie. It has a very specific type of pacing. The music is very much of its era, but it also feels like there's a deliberate kind of misdirect of how it's used. Of like, it feels so jovial and nice and charming, and then a minute later there'll be like extreme violence. And so there is like a level of craftsmanship here that I can see, but I'm just not at this moment in time like connecting with it as I think it wants me to.
Well, I mean, I think since I first saw The Big Boss, I have seen like Way of the Dragon, Enter the Dragon, Tiger and Crane Fists, and was the Jackie Chan film we did Rumble in the Bronx?
Mm-hmm.
And I think all of those just had more fights spread throughout the film. Like, rewatching this one, even though I was enjoying it, I was noting like, it's been quite a while since the last fight. That would really keep this going a lot better if we had, more fights going on. So I think the quantity is one of its, downfalls. It was also interesting, again, going back to reading context stuff, is that they were trying to go for something that was breaking the mold a bit. Like, the fact that our hero is flawed was apparently like a thing they didn't really do in martial arts films. So it was interesting that they were doing that, and going forward, you can see that that's a thing. But
his oath of nonviolence is a big thing as well, where you walk in wanting to see him commit violence, but he does not want to.
Yeah. It is really funny going into this film knowing who Bruce Lee is, and having that be like the sticking point of him for the first third of this film, where he will not fight. And if you walked into this not knowing who Bruce Lee was, you would just think like, okay, This is like a random audience surrogate guy. Like, the only violent thing he does in the first third is like two guys pop up either side of him, and he does the thing where he raises his fists and knocks them down instantly. That's like, oh, that's like a gag.
It's like the Three Stooges do that.
Yeah.
But I'm not expecting Mo to, Mo to be the guy who's like the Bruce Lee of Hollywood, just because he also does that.
Yes, and I do remember that first time watching, though, when the Jade Talisman does get broken, and that that breaks his oath, and he starts being violent. Like, he really does, establish himself as like, oh, this is the badass. This is the action guy.
This is the Bruce Lee that we know.
Yeah, that first fight at the ice factory.
Oh yeah,
where he just you have this really long fight scene where he's literally just chilling against a wall because, like, well, I have an oath, I can't fight.
Yeah.
And you're watching all of the, archetypal family characters keep up with, but also get overpowered by...
Well, more people come in on the boss.
by more people coming in. So it's like, oh, this even fight got uneven, and then his Jade Talisman gets, destroyed in the collateral, and then he... at this point where they're at their strongest, takes them down effortlessly.
But he also gives them mercy at that point too. He's like, see, I've done my thing. Are we good now? And then the person still wants to come at him with a knife, and then the other ones are like, I don't know. Like, even then, he's still showing some level of restraint, which then we see gets less and less and less as the movie goes on, because they cross the line more and more and more. And he becomes more violent and murderous, and he's covered in blood. And see, that shit's so good. Like, I was just elated when we got to the fireworks factory of the movie. Like, in terms of like, I want to go to the fireworks factory and see fireworks. And that's what this movie is. I want to go to the Bruce Lee movie and see him fucking punch people and do the famous pose and kick a knife out of people's hands and wrap a shirt around the other hand. Like, I want to see that shit. And I want to see that. And the movie's like, sorry, you have to wait until an hour and 48 minutes in to get that. I was like, no.
It's okay, Ryan. It's in the film.
It's in there.
With the greatest shade of red blood there has ever been. I loved the red in this film.
It's very of its time, like that late 60s, 70s.
Oh, yeah, it looks fake, but
it looks
such
great.
a good shade of red.
It's such a good shade of red.
I call that, like, crimson. That's peak crimson.
It's always interesting, too, like, in terms of, like, what movie blood has to look like in comparison to real life blood, because it's that thing of, like, what we interpret from media, what blood looks like, and it's this whole thing, and what lighting can pick up as well. This is a bit of a ramble here, but in the original Star Trek show, the bridge is painted with red handrails and stuff like that. But because of the lenses and the lighting and the color grading and stuff of the time, it appears orangish. But when you actually see it in normal life, it's like the most red you've ever seen. And it's like the weirdness of that. And it's like, you look at this movie, they're shooting outside so much in this movie. Like, he's outside, and there's like this very like...
It's a very white and grey film.
Yeah, but
there's that sky.
Yeah, but there's also like... But it makes what colors there are pop.
Yeah.
So there's like that... that kind of 60s, 60s to early 70s, almost technicolor, bright, colorful quality to this movie, even during some of the nighttime scenes. So when there's blood, it really does just jump out at you, and you just can't help but look at it and be like, now that's something I see. Well, I feel like today in movies, because we're going for a more gritty, style, when people get like massacred and blood comes out, it just doesn't feel like it shows as much. It's like, oh yeah, blood. It's a thing that's there. This is a movie. It's like, even though it may not look real, it's very effective. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, real blood's darker.
People. He stabbed those people, and it's showing up on his white shirt. Won't stay white for long.
I like how throughout the whole film he was like carrying that like navy blue shirt. His hands, like, it's his prop throughout the film.
Yeah, and I wonder if that would come in handy.
Yeah, and then you brought it up before, the shirt on the hand thing. It's like, oh wow, it actually amounted to something. Like, he wore it at one point, but that wasn't really a payoff.
He kicks so fast, those kicks, like boom, boom, boom. He just, it goes without saying, but Bruce Lee is a legend, of course, and part of his legendary status is these movies, what we see of them, and the allure of who he was behind the scenes and how much that either lived up to or went against what we see on the screen. He died at a young age as well from very strange circumstances.
We're almost that age, yeah.
And, that adds to the kind of almost mythical status at this point. And it's weird because, is he a good actor? Would you say Bruce Lee is a good actor? Probably, but...
Based on this film, yes, he's all right.
Probably, but you aren't marking him when you watch this movie in particular for what is a good actor. You're marking him for what is a star. He is a movie star. And a part of that is more than just the ability to act. It's like, does he have, what's that certain something? And it's a physicality to me. It's just the look of him, the way he poses, those facial expressions, the hair, the way he kicks. It's like everything about it is so him. It's so unique to him. It's so that's what the movie star of Bruce Lee gives you, rather than, some of the other people in this movie who do some good fights, but like none of them stand out, even though they're all good fighters. There's people doing high jumps and kicks and all of those. They're very good at what they do, but they don't have that star power. They don't have that unique quality to them. I mean, in one of the other movies, he eventually fights Chuck Norris, right?
Yeah, Way of the Dragon.
And even then, Chuck Norris, he stands out in that. He's obviously the Caucasian guy and the hairy guy, but it's like he stands out because he himself, Chuck Norris, all jokes aside of what Chuck Norris is nowadays, he is a star when it comes to action stuff and he has a certain way of doing it as well. So I was kind of just looking at the Big Boss and taking in of like how this being his first leading role in a movie, how because of his many years before this, he already comes to this just refined. It just is like, yeah, this is already locked in. Like everything else may be a little bit, just an outline of what things are to come. But like Bruce Lee's fighting style and physicality and all of that stuff is fully formed here. It's just the movie around it just isn't able to get to where he is at.
Yeah, that's true. Him holding out on the action for the first third means that you're not really seeing the big draw until, that second scene at the ice factory where there's the fight.
So, what else stood out to you about this film when giving it a watch over again?
It did fly by pretty quickly. I remembered it being I guess it was almost 2 hours long, but it did kind of fly by, which was interesting. Just being surprised the second time round by how the pacing was, very, very inconsistent. Yeah, I wanted to walk into this and, fall in love again, but it was, just something where I was seeing, the downfalls of it. But still walking away being like, I appreciate that. I don't know necessarily what it could bring given the context of like, martial arts films now and like where they've gone. But yeah, I do still think it works in some way.
It has that scrappy charm. The behind the scenes about all of the problems they were facing trying to make the movie, although that doesn't, in my eyes, directly appear on the screen, it does appear in terms of like the spirit of the film, because when I finished this, I just had that feeling of like, man, these are people who came together and they just wanted to make a fun movie, a heartfelt movie, and they didn't know how to fully do it, but they tried, and they did their thing, and it comes together because you have the person that the person that the movie is revolving around is that good that you're willing to forgive some of the other things, like it's of its time, but also of budget constraints and whatever, and it's now become a staple of the genre. But like the over the top sound effects and the bad dubbing and the music, all of that stuff's cheesy and corny, and you could say is bad, but in a weird way because these films do that so often and they've become a staple of them. They've gone from being bad to being a part of it and charming. Like, genuinely, when we got to hear those over-the-top punch sounds, I had a big smile on my face. Like,
Yeah, the sound
yeah.
design was on point for a martial arts film.
Exactly, for
Yeah.
a martial arts film.
And the first thing you were saying there about how, it was all coming together, these people were working together, I didn't necessarily think those exact words, but one of the films that I was thinking of was Who Killed Captain Alex, where that was the big appeal of it.
Ah, yes.
Where it was this thing of like, it's a bit of a clumsy story when you look at it overall, but like, they are giving it their all. Like the action's there, the passion's there. It is great to look at.
Yeah, exactly. So, The Big Boss, I'm trying to think of other things I want to say about it, because I want to talk about the movie more so than just Bruce Lee and the behind the scenes, but I think the movie is one of those cases where, you kind of are watching it for the sake of that stuff more than what's actually here itself.
Yeah, it's such a codifying film for what comes after, and there's the legendary status of its leading star. It is kind of hard. I remember finishing the film being like, wonder how this episode will go. There's certainly a couple of things we can talk about, but how will we fill the rest of the time?
Do you have a favorite of Bruce Lee's movies that you've seen?
I really want to rewatch all of the ones that I've seen again. I remember that university day where we watched Fists of Fury, which I think was on my birthday, actually. I remember it being such a good time and, sparking my interest. I really want to see again that one to see if it holds up. But
yeah, that was one I like the most. Is it just because it's the first one I've seen? I don't know. It's always hard to tell if that's the reason of like, oh, it's the first one I saw, so I like it.
Yeah, like I held this one really fond in my heart, but watching again, like, I don't know if it can really, live up to that first viewing memory. So I do want to check them out again. Enter the Dragon was a lot of fun. Way of the Dragon was really funny.
Yeah, I was gonna say this one's the one that's lacked humor out of the ones that I've watched, out of the three, because this one's very dry.
Yeah,
There's not. That's the thing too. Not a lot of likability, or even of these family characters that get killed. I don't find any of them like. Not only are they very flat characters, but there's not like, there's a jovial quality to this one, and I'm going to really miss this one's dorky thing. And there's not a sense of community there. And so this film is very dry when it comes to it, because it's trying to pay off that sense of community when they're all taken away and killed. Yeah. And then he does his revenge thing, but it doesn't matter because I don't really know them and I don't really feel like they have much to them.
There's only really one of them that is kind of fleshed out. It's the kind of older one.
Mm-hmm.
I forget his name, but then again, I forget all their names, really. They're the An family, that's all I remember. But yeah, he was the one that he's kind of like the leader of the group. He felt like the uncle or something. And he's the one that turns against Bruce Lee the hardest when he's, fallen for, the traps of luxury and things like that. And after his basically last scene, you get the female cousin saying he's really a nice guy at heart. He'll turn around on you. And I don't think we really get any more scenes of him before he is killed off. So he does feel like the wasted potential in terms of that. But then again, you look at the purpose behind these characters and it is to be killed off to fuel the revenge. So you can't really hold it against the film, even though I kind of want to.
And the ending of the movie has some fun moments. The fight is cool. There's this is a bit more of that cheeky sensibility that I saw in his other movies that was sorely lacking here. The villain he has to fight at the end is holding a bird in a wicker cage.
Yes.
And it keeps cutting back to that. And even he, Bruce Lee's character, acknowledges that, come on, this is, just with a gesture. And so the villain throws the cage up and there's this amazing film trick where it hooks around to a tree branch really high up. And And then Bruce Lee just fucking like takes out that cage and he went and frees the birds, and then the villain's like, well, fuck you then.
You
and
slighted me by freeing my little parrot.
I'm gonna fuck you up.
Yeah, it is.
That was like, see, I wish there was way more of that in the film.
Like, think of everything we've said about this film being kind of, serious, but then you do have the Chevy Chase cut out in the wall. You have that, and there's like
but they're so fleeting.
Yeah, and there's a moment in the fight where they're like locked into each other's legs and like rolling around. That's kind of funny. It's like you have these little moments here that kind of really stand out in the film. And I think there was even in the trivia something about like there were 3 moments where Bruce Lee was fighting to take something out and he lost every single time.
Good.
It might have been those 2.
I like again with the big warehouse fight when he steps in and everyone like stops and he just is like, now listen to me type deal. And it's just very funny, like, because one guy kicked someone's butt, everyone now stops after like fighting each other for like ages. But yeah, there is some humor, but it's this weird thing of like there's not enough of it to feel like it's consistent. And when it's there, it stands out, but it also stands out because it feels out of place. But I also desperately want it, so I like it when it does show up. Like it's this. It's not mixed together quite right, which in my recollection of some of the other ones I've seen of his, there is either more of a fixed tone or an appropriate use of humor. Like I don't remember Fist of Fury being that humorous, but I remember it being much more like tonally consistent. Like when I think of that movie, it's been a while since I've seen it. Like I remember feeling
13 years.
I feel like I remember it feeling awesome because of like all of the fighting, but I remember it had a stoicism to it, like one that felt earned. Just, he comes in and there's just like this brooding quality to that movie. I remember like nighttime scenes, and I do remember one funny moment that everyone laughed at when we watched it in the screening, which is the reveal of a man wearing a girdle, and there was like the snap zoom on it, and it was supposed to be like significant because of the color of it, but it was this very funny moment where we zoomed in on a man's tits, and it was supposed to be this reveal about the girdle, but we looked at the tit, we all laughed because it was like a Tarantino snap zoom on a man's tits, and we all got a good laugh.
Martial arts films, that video I was talking about, the Why I Love Martial Arts Films, has a whole section about like how much you really love it when they do the snap zoom.
I was really wanting more of it in this movie.
Yeah.
I can't even recall a good snap zoom moment.
I think there was 1 or 2, but I don't remember it being like amazing or anything. I think based on that video, we should really be watching more Jackie Chan films.
Yeah, Jackie. But we're talking about Bruce.
No, of course.
They call me Bruce. Any other things you want to say about The Big Boss?
I think we've pretty much gotten it. So let's get around to recommendations. Do you recommend The Big Boss despite the sort of mixed feelings we have?
Here's how I will go about it. If you've never seen a Bruce Lee movie before, do not watch this one first. I just don't think it would make you want to check out his other movies. I think this is more forgivable for me, because I've seen his other movies and I can like stroke my chin and go, oh yes, I can see, like I can appreciate what we get. But if this is if you had this as your first outing, I wouldn't say it's good. Like, I wouldn't say check it out. I would say leave it for later as like now I can appreciate it. Because although this came first in his filmography, a year later you're going to have, and a year after that you're going to have.
Yeah, this was 2 years before he died, so he made a lot of leading films.
He made a lot of leading films. So no, I wouldn't recommend it in specifically for that reason. But if you are someone who's like us and you've seen a couple and you want to see more, check it out. But it's going to be just a bit of a lackluster time, I think. I think you're going to have, it's fun, but it's not going to reach any of those high highs as you may want them to when you say, I'm going to sit down and watch a Bruce Lee movie.
Yeah. It's one that, like, if you're sitting down saying, like, I want to watch all the Bruce Lee leading films, like, you're not going to hate it. You'll have a good time with it, but, yeah, consider if you want it to be the first one. I still do overall recommend it. Again, I think because it is a martial arts film, you can forgive a lot of the things that, is kind of where it's lower on the entertainment value. But overall, I still think it's a decent time.
So it is my time, the villain's time, to
Mhm.
recommend a film.
Yeah. Ryan, could you put away the birdcage, please?
No, Bartek, don't free my bird. No, I now shall fight you, and you shall be arrested immediately.
Can we go to the leg locking part?
Oh my god, I loved that the movie ended with just a classic like. Well, you see, if a good guy kills people, we can't let them get away because that's a crime. So they must be arrested, like the old movie tradition of like
Mhm.
if they do any nefarious thing, the cops must arrest them at the end because we have morals and we have
I think
worries about like, sorry, you have to like. I know in America, like they have the Hays Code and whatnot. Like if a character commits a murder, by the end of the movie, they have to face repercussions immediately.
I think even if the cops in this film like had full understanding and like reason not to arrest him, just the look of him alone, like covered in blood over a dead body, they'd probably feel obligated, like, well, we should arrest you because this is a bad look.
But it's just how the film shows, like, that's how it's got to be at the end.
Mm.
Like, he has to be arrested because that's what they did in these old movies. So, I'm recommending an old film, possibly I think it will be the oldest film we've done on the podcast.
Are we going to the 20s?
1928.
Yeah, it must be then.
The Man Who Laughs, which is a silent movie, if I'm recalling correctly. There's versions of this on YouTube for people to watch because obviously it's out there. This is a film it's a German film yet again.
Mhm.
It stars, the lead is Konrad Veidt, I want to say his name is, if I'm getting that right. He is the guy who played the head Nazi in Casablanca, but also he was the actor who played the creation in the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Okay.
So this actor has he's had his mark in movie history. So I thought, why not look at a film of his that also has made ripples in certain ways. I won't get into how, but
we'll see. This is the
we'll
second
see.
film in a row you've recommended with man in the title.
Yeah.
You love man.
I love man.
Oops. I hit the pop filter.
And you ruined it all.
Because I love men so much.
You, Bartek, no, not men.
I love man so much.
You love man.
In joke.
Good for you, buddy. So, thank you all so much for listening. It's been a pleasure to talk to you yet again, Bartek. And, who would win in a fight? Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan? The biggest thing that's ever been talked about. People obviously have made this comment. Where do you fall on the fight stuff?
That's a good question. Jackie Chan would have a whole big set piece thing going for him during the fight. I think Bruce Lee would be a bit more direct. So maybe it'll be about if Bruce Lee can adapt to him, like wielding ladders and things like that, or, climbing up walls.
Falling up like slipping off banana peels. Yeah. I want to say Bruce Lee, but then I'm like, wow, but Jackie's really fast. But Bruce is really fast.
In the Tekken franchise, there's a counterpart to both of them. We could watch a bunch of matches between them.
Were those characters in the Tekken film that we covered on the podcast?
The Bruce Lee one was. I don't think the Jackie Chan one.
Well, there you go. We have an answer. We know who wins.
Yeah.
It's Bruce.
I remember the weird thing. The weird thing in the Tekken one was that the martial law character was presented like really villainous, but in the franchise he's kind of a goofball.
His name's Martial Law for a start. That should be villainous, but there we are. Everyone, you can find us on social medias, Facebook and Twitter, Spit and Polish Presents. We would love your recommendations because we do cover the films you recommend and we put them on our list and we eventually get around and talk about them. So please, if you have a recommendation, hit us up on social media or you can contact us at our email address, which is...
That email address is spitandpolished@gmail.com.
Let us know your thoughts, feelings, and concerns, I guess. Oh, guys, I'm concerned that you haven't watched the greatest Bruce Lee movie yet, and then they recommend a Bruce Lee movie.
They call me Bruce too.
Is there a second one?
I think.
Oh,
or they still call me Bruce or something.
Yeah, it's like the Trinity like the play on They Call Me Trinity.
Yeah, it was something like
And
that.
Trinity is Still My Name. That's a sequel to They Call Me Trinity, which is an amazing title. And then there's the film My Name Is Nobody, which is completely unrelated, but it also stars Terence Hill basically as Trinity. Like, he's basically the same character, but that film is not at all connected. It's very funny. And but that film is, weirdly enough, scored by Ennio Morricone, which is weird because the film's a comedy. So it's very weird that there's a spaghetti western comedy starring the guy who played Trinity, not playing Trinity, but he basically is Trinity. But the score is done by one of the greatest music composers of film, and it's done in a way where it's like, yeah, you can tell it's one of the greatest, but it's done for a stupid slapstick comedy. Weird. But Bartek, we are done. We are dusted. We are out of here. Do you think you could kick as high as Bruce?
I feel like it'd be one of those like martial arts or anime things where I could do it, but it would kill me.
You could do it, but it hurts your back again, and you're like, my back!
It won't defeat the villain. I won't sacrifice myself to beat them, but I will, do that achievement, but kill me.
We could be like those characters in the film Mulan, where we are like the ones who think we're tough and noble, but we are actually fuck-ups, and then Mulan teaches us how to do it properly. Like, you could be the little gruff guys, like, I know how to do it, and then you kick yourself and give yourself a black eye.
I did have. I've never seen the film, but I played Kingdom Hearts 2, so I know who they are.
Shut the fuck up.
No, that's true.
Goofy!
Yeah, and Goofy's there too, that's true. So who'd win, Bruce Lee or Brad Pitt?
We didn't even go the whole episode not even mentioning that. There were people who were genuinely furious at the portrayal of Bruce Lee in that movie.
Yeah, Bruce Lee's family,
Bruce Lee's family. But anytime you read trivia about Bruce Lee in any movie productions, he seems a bit of a prima donna, so I don't know. I'm not a Bruce Lee expert. Don't come after me, Bruce Lee's family. It was hearsay. I didn't mean it. Although I've read a lot of stuff that made it sound like he was a bit of a prima donna. But again, that's rumors. I wasn't there. I wasn't even born. We were born a year before his son died.
I could kick Bruce Lee's ass.